of what you need help with. We're not here to really do the research, but we want this program to be about us being able to show you where you can find this information. And so we have people that have submitted some genealogy brick walls and questions they have. And so for these lives, we want to be able to show you exactly where you might be able to find some of this information. And we want to be able to help you can tap into the genealogy community around Indiana. And maybe some areas might not be Indiana, but we want to help you to be able to find your ancestor stories. So this is like I said, this is our first one. If you have questions, just type it in the comments and we will bring them up to everybody. But we had quite a few people submit some great queries. And so we're going to go ahead and have Kay start. I don't know if Allison had anything she wanted to add before we started this, but okay, ladies.
Go.
I was just going to say, I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, we had some great questions and had a lot of fun looking up some resources and repositories. The 5 counties that we kind of focused on with this were Tippecanoe, Clark, Ripley, Lawrence, and Porter counties. So we welcome Indiana-related genealogical questions, and we hope to kind of point you in the right direction to jumpstart your research. We pretty much all have day jobs and other responsibilities, so we really don't have time to do the actual research. We want you to have that thrill of the hunt and finding these records. I was working today at the Henry County Historical Society, and I had a new volunteer come in, and she pulled her family file. And she has a family who was in Henry County before we were a county, so about 1820. And she was flipping through the file and found information that she did not know existed. And she literally was thrilled to find that. So, that was kind of neat. That's our goal, is to help you find those things, to bring that joy to you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to L.A. Clue with our first question, and she can talk about what she found regarding the question, and we can take it from there. And L.A., just let me know when I need to switch the slides.
Oh, okay. Well, good evening, everybody. Our first question is on the Sullivan family in Tippecanoe County. And on Kay's PowerPoint, I kind of threw out some thoughts. As a family historian for Tippecanoe County, all my ancestors, all my sites come to Tippecanoe County and stay. So I've been looking at records for many, many, many years. And, the lady's question was finding more about her ancestors, and spelling, especially, is a problem. And finding those early records. And so in my response, I kind of talked about going around the county and learning about the cemeteries, and shared a little bit about how our Genealogy Society and the Historical Society has come in contact with burial lists and records, and they are just so vital to finding the answers for our people. And the Sullivan family, I did find fairly quickly on Find a Grave, and in the presentation text there, it tells you that I did find them on Find a Grave in And that is something our county genealogy people have been putting up online for over 20 years. So we feel pretty good that that's a good place to start. Not that everything is correct, but we're working on it, and we're pretty much down to a lot of people who do not have tombstones, the unmarked graves. So my first thought in this question was, oh my, did they not have any graves? But yes, they do. So I did find them on Find a Grave. They have tombstones. I quickly went to newspapers.com and found the obituaries. Okay, you might want to roll down to the obituary section there. 4 obituaries, and interesting enough, they describe different children in different obituaries, which often happens. So they are listed with cemetery records on Find a Grave. The plot is there so that you could actually go to the cemetery and find them. There is an office there at St. Mary's Cemetery. So if she made the trip to Lafayette, I feel pretty good she could walk in and find the family section there at St. Mary's. I also started on the website there in Lafayette. The research library is held at the Historical Society, known as the Almeda McCullough Research Library. And in the last few years, we've been putting indexes up on all of the things that have been built for years. And one of the links that I shared is on estate files. And so there looks like there could easily be an estate file for Michael that may give you more to the family story there. So fun. Shall we roll down to the next question?
Do you want to go ahead and take that?
Okay.
The Marsh family.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah. So the Marsh family, this is a good one. I think that so many people think that all the records should be out there online, and they're not. A question was asked recently about what percentage maybe of records are actually online for family history, and I don't know a good answer to that. But certainly not all of them. And this is a example of why you can't find it there. So while the index is online, and I went back to our research library, the website, and there is a link here. I don't know if the links are live online or not, but they are showing estate files for 4 different Marsh families, and David has one. And so on the presentation slide there tonight, we laid out some of the David estate file there, David Marsh estate file. And there's, oh my goodness, hundreds little pieces right there to that thing. And we get excited just finding the answer for people like this. So the first thing we did was notice that there's an awful lot of dirt on that file from the courthouse. They were up in the attic. There was a lot of coal dust and things. So we cleaned it and put it in very good order for, hopefully, Angel will make a trip to Lafayette and sit down and enjoy this file. There are guardianships in that file. It appears that David died somewhere between 1858 and 59. We didn't have time to actually study the file, but I did notice a coffin maker's receipt was listed. That's usually a pretty good time frame from when somebody died. There are no David Marsh family people on Find a Grave, except maybe Cynthia. in Tippecanoe County. I think we found a couple of the brothers over in Ohio. And there's guardianship letters on, her question was the Gushwa and the, the other family's name there, Gunkles. And they're right there in the neighborhood. And so they evidently stepped in to help take care of these children. And there's a lot of receipts you see in that picture there, where they're all submitting expenses to taking care of those children. And eventually you'll find where they have moved on. So one of the other pictures I sent is a land dispute. And there's pieces that are posted in newspaper.com listing David's siblings, I have to assume. Absalom has another big estate file. Could be his father, could be his brother. But I think, gosh, if this was my family, I would be so excited to be able to open this up and start putting things in order and bring that brick wall down. So local research is just so important, to take the time to come in, make the time to come in and find answers like this with original papers.
That is so true. Thank you very much, LA. We appreciate all your hard work, and this file just looks awesome.
Oh, it does.
Looks like it'll take a few days to go through study. That is really
well,
neat.
One of the nice things at the research library is you can request what is there if you can't find it all online. The indexes are there. You can create a list of what you may want, send the research notes to the research library, or your research request, and they will take a look and let you know what it's going to cost. They'll digitize it. You can send a charge card or call them and figure out the payment, and they can drop it to you through big file transfer programs now. And you can have the answers fairly quick if you cannot make the trip. So that's
that is a great example of why it takes time for your request to go through, especially when it's a probate file like in the picture, because it's going to take time for someone to sit down, clean the papers, organize them, see what the request, specifically asked for, or do you digitize everything? It's time consuming.
Yeah. It is so worth it when you can send somebody the answers to their questions and bring that brick wall down. And it's exciting. It's still exciting for me to be able to share the puzzle pieces, whether it's cemeteries or records like this. So
that's also a good plug for volunteering
at
these places. Let's see. All righty. The third question we had, this is more of a methodology type question. Rhonda Clark submitted one about people who vanish. They're in one census and then they just go away. And sometimes you hear about people that just appear, where were they before? And she's looked through death indices and cemeteries, no idea where they wound up. She's tried marriage records for the girls. That's a great technique, a great way to figure out what happened to girls when they changed their name. And she also said it's really hard when an obituary says 1 of 11 children and you can only find 7. So some have disappeared after being counted in the census once with the family. So in response to that, I thought, okay, it can be a challenge. You want to check the historic newspapers, but beyond the obituaries, there are human interest stories, human nature type stories, birth and marriage announcements, updates on a county's small communities. I've noticed the county seat, the newspaper, or the county seat back then would run columns for the small towns in the outlying townships. That included a lot of family information. Even advertisements. The local library, historical genealogical societies, and the courthouse. Do your prep work before you go. So check online for hours, locations, and kind of make a research plan, what you need to search for. And if you can't get there yourself, you can check the Association of Professional Genealogists to hire someone, or your local societies or library might know of someone. And you need to look for spelling varieties for names. They spelled names phonetically back then, how it sounds. And even when you think you had thought up every variation, something new will turn up that you never expected. And that's usually an indexer has transcribed something that was handwritten. Also church records, if you can determine what religion they were, city directories, military records, such as pensions, and land records and maps. Does anyone else have anything to, any other ideas?
Yes.
I have a couple things. She didn't mention what time frame this was or where it was. But you have to realize that further back you go in time, the fewer ways there are to go places. I mean, there were very few roads, and and mostly they were pretty bad. So if there was like you're along the Ohio River, okay, you would naturally go on the river with a flatboat or something maybe, and you could go that way. There wasn't too many ways to go any other way. Plus, you have to realize that people rarely go anywhere by themselves, especially in a dangerous type of thing. So basically, they would have gone with someone else. They would have gone like in a wagon train, maybe in early days, things like that. If there was one railroad line that went from where you were to like St. Louis, that's, you'd have to look along that because they doing anything else was dangerous and it was expensive. So basically, look at the time frame and where you're going and how you get there. Like for instance, I'm here in Indianapolis, and when the National Road came to Indianapolis in the 1830s, and that changed completely the way that people got here and how people got somewhere else. So look at your town or where it is and just what are their options? And because there are probably not very many of them. So just follow those few options down and see where somebody might have gone. Like I was over in Terre Haute not very long ago, and right across the state line from Terre Haute is Marshall, Illinois. So if somebody disappeared from Terre Haute, they would probably wind up somewhere like in the beginning to Marshall, Illinois, because it was close, it was easy, and that kind of thing. So look for easy movements, and that'll probably put you on the right path. Okay,
Thank you.
that's
I have a suggestion. Tax records, don't discount the tax records. They had to pay taxes every year. So mostly you're going to get that head of household only, but you can at least follow them in between the census records. And you want to, if they're in a census in in 1860 and then again in 1870. I would suggest that they get all the tax records that they can in between those years, and then even after those years, and then follow them through the tax records. It's basically like a census in itself. It's putting them in a time and a place. So don't discount that.
Great idea. Awesome. So thank you, Rhonda Clark.
I got a couple.
Woo! Go ahead.
Um, I know there's a lot of people in Vigo County that disappeared. They went to the gold rush out in California. And some never came back, and some did, but some never came back. So depending on her time frame, migration and things that pulled them away that way. And two other areas, coroner's inquest for deaths and for farms. Sometimes they were unfortunate.
Mhm.
And that's
Those-
things you can find before 1882 for Indiana sometimes.
Mhm. Those are good records. Our poor farm records are at the Historical Society.
Mhm.
Our poor farm records are on our website. We have digitized them
That's awesome.
and they're searchable.
Mhm.
For what website?
So, Sullivan County Public Library.
Ah,
Mhm.
nice.
Sullivan, Indiana.
Anything else?
Marion County Poor Farm Records at the Indiana State Archives, where a lot of records wound up from other parts of the state. So you might, if you can't find it locally, then you might find that they send it to the state archives, something like that. Plus, like going with what Donna said, you might check the township trustee records because they were the ones that did the dirty work by collecting the money. They had the sheriff and go out and collect the money if somebody didn't send it in voluntarily, stuff like that. So a lot of the local records were handled by the township trustee, especially like Civil War and before. Okay.
Awesome.
One
wait,
more case.
sorry.
One more. On this David Marsh family
Mhm.
and those other cases, the mortality schedule, I did find Absalom Marsh in Tippecanoe County, who died 1849 or 1850.
Mhm.
And I found that on Family Search, and the actual book is there. That was fun to find for me.
Mhm.
So I think that's another thing to look for, especially around the cholera time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Question number 4, submitted by the genealogy biography writer. And this one is kind of covers a few areas. Jeffersonville, Friendsville, Jennings County, Ripley County, family names, the Signs Party to Ohio, and on to Indiana. So this is pretty early. And I kind of like this question about advertisements for Coopers. And that is that's kind of a unique way to do your research. Advertisements for an occupation. And then we also have Lawrenceburg, Rising Sun, and of course this is something we've all heard about, errors that are copied from online trees. So this is how I broke it down. Local and regional history. I put some links there for digitized books online. And of course, if you're in Indiana, go to the Allen County Public Library Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne to get your hands on published references, not only for Indiana, but all the states. And Allison can speak more to that. So, I would look up county history books, or books about specific towns and cities. Jennings and Ripley counties, Jeffersonville, it's a large city, Friendsville, Rising Sun, Lawrenceburg, down on the Ohio River. Of course, you're on a state border, so possibly Kentucky records. Specific history, all these resources, but look for information at your local libraries and your societies and courthouses. I would look up information. I would learn what I could about the Sims Party. I'd look for published family histories on these websites, and also the Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne. And don't forget to utilize the fan club, a term coined by Elizabeth Shown Mills, certified genealogist. That's your ancestors' friends, acquaintances / associates, and neighbors. Check their records because your people could be mentioned in their records. And also research in person. That is kind of key to all these questions, boots on the ground. Either you can go visit the repositories, or you can contact a repository, make a request, or hire someone to do it for you. A small percentage of official records are digitized and online. I mean, a minute amount. There is just a ton to be found in your local repositories. And I'll say it again, do your prep work in advance, check your hours and locations, create a plan, contact them ahead of time in case the records you need are stored off-site and need to be retrieved, because in some larger cities, you'll find that. Okay, I'll open it up to anyone to add.
Another tip is like if you're planning a research trip to somewhere, possibly a courthouse, you sometimes that person that might be kind of over the records that you want to see only is there maybe part-time. So you might want to make sure that you find out what days they are going to be there, because they are the people who will help you, find maybe what you need, let you into a locked room area that you will not have access to unless they're there. Those are the kind of things that you want to be aware of if you do some traveling to do any research. And make sure you don't go around election time. That would be, a lot of times you're not going to be able to get in and do research on those times. And hey, sometimes they have pipes to burst or something like that. Just call ahead, make sure they're going to be open before you go.
Okay, since I'm the king of peculiar records, I'd like to make another suggestion. It looks to me like they're interested in pretty early people, especially down along the river. One of the things you ought to look at is lodge records, like the Oddfellows, the Masons, things like that. In all these little small towns, and there were a lot of small towns in Indiana in the early days, and there still are, I guess. The lodges were the center of social life in a lot of these towns. They didn't have movies, they didn't have, elaborate stuff like that. So but one day a week at least, they would go to a lodge, and they would, so if you're looking for a fan club, that's where you'd find your fan club, because they all belong to the same lodge. And many of the records that you need, the government did not collect, but the lodges did. Things like movement in, movement out, births or deaths, things like that. A lot of the lodges predated the state of Indiana. They were in the territorial period. So you're looking at some interesting records there. If you're looking for Indiana, the state headquarters of the Masons and the Oddfellows are here in Indianapolis. And they have, when a lodge shut down, maybe the records were supposed to be sent to the state headquarters for for safety. So if you ever go into there, I've been to both of these, and there's just all kinds of lodge records all over the place from very early, all over the state of Indiana. So, it's something that people don't necessarily think about, but they could find a lot, might contain a lot of stuff that are non-government, but things that we later on consider to be, death records, like government parts. So this is the early part. So look for lodge records all over the place. And I think you'll find a lot of fan club members as well as the people you're looking for. Okay.
Another interesting fact about Indiana, we have DePaul University who holds the Methodist church records. And with the changing of the Methodist churches, a lot of the churches are breaking away. And so they are sending their records to DePaul. And I know that they've received a lot of records in the last couple years. And they've already had a big, amount of those records as well, but they are receiving more. So don't discount DePaul University, who has the Methodist church records.
And for Catholic records, the Archdiocese of Indianapolis covers all of the Catholic churches, basically south of I-70. And it's like Donna said, if a parish shuts down, those records are sent to the Archdiocese archives here in Indianapolis. So all of the different, like the Baptists are down at Franklin College, there's look for where things might have wound up, especially if they're not where you think they should be.
Another thing is the SAR records. They're in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where, what is the name of that place, Ron? It's the facility for the SAR records.
It's the national headquarters of the SAR.
Yes. And it's in Louisville, Kentucky. So that is a great place too to go and research.
So yeah, next May, the National Genealogical Society is having their conference in Louisville. So you could kill two birds with one stone. You go right there, and there's lots of places to look for them. Okay.
And the Quakers are at Earlham College.
Right, Earlham.
Yes,
Yeah, there
that's
you
right.
go.
That's right. Earlham, yeah.
Hanover has some Presbyterian things, I think.
Allison, are you available?
There she is.
Hello.
Oh.
Dinner time.
Okay, we're silent for a second. Hey, what's up?
The Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne.
Yes.
If you wanted to put in a plug for that, that would be awesome.
The kids are loud. Anyway, so Genealogy Center is an amazing resource. There's a ton of materials that are available. Now we have scanning partnerships with Family Search and Internet Archive. So a lot of the older materials are digitized and online. So when I say older, think of things like pre-1924. So we're talking about like those county histories that were done at the turn of the century and family histories that were done at the turn of the century and before, which is really helpful. And then you're going to find all sorts of materials that we've been digitizing ourselves. So these are manuscript type material that you can find online. And then if you come to the Genealogy Center, there's 1.2 million physical items, and you will have the assistance of phenomenal genealogy librarians and 24 databases that we pay for so you don't have to.
That's awesome.
Don't forget about Percy. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know how brief you wanted me to be. Percy is phenomenal. So Okay, the periodical source index is probably one of my favorite resources that we have. Can I take over the share? No, host disabled shares.
I can give it to you.
That would be delightful.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm gonna get in here and share this. It's easier to see it. Sometimes you have to see it to understand it. So we're gonna go in here. All right, so now you see the Genealogy Center page and hear my kids screaming. Sorry about that. He's one. If you scroll down and keep going, here is the periodical source index, Percy. You click on that. So then you go to the periodical source index here. And you have different options. This is an index of the titles of articles. It is not an every name index, but this is just as powerful. So these are periodicals, so newsletters, quarterlies, journals that are done by boots on the ground people who are able to access these materials. So think of it as if your family is from a small county in a state that you do not live, and they don't have a ton of stuff digitized. This is your opportunity to get your hands on that information. Now, what you can do is you can start with surnames. Remember, it's not an every name index. I like to do my former colleague's surname because it's a super common word, church. She always would get frustrated about doing searches because you would get different denominations and physical buildings. So if you do church, you actually get churches here. So if you look at this, you can see that there's different types of things. So we have Nova Scotia, we have Georgia, there's California, there's England, there's all sorts of materials that are available. And these are things that you then have access to through the Genealogy Center. Now, it could be through you could request it from us, meaning you could request the article, but that is $7.50, which I don't know if everybody wants to pay that amount of money. So you have the option of also looking for it via WorldCat, or if you can find it digitized online, Google is your best friend for that. But you want to see if you can find an article before you actually pay the money. So start with the publisher, which you see in this lineup right here, and then go through and see if you can contact them. Maybe they'll even give you the article for free. You can then look for that periodical in WorldCat. And if you're not familiar with WorldCat, please become familiar with WorldCat. It is your best friend. But you can take a look at any of these different articles. We have every single one of them at the Genealogy Center. So feel free to come in and look, but you can also order them. I mean, if you want to order. I try not to pressure people into that. If it'll load. It's not loading right now. It's fine. Live presentations. All right, I'm gonna go back to Percy because I think it's such an amazing resource. And you can search any location. So I'm gonna go in here and go to Indiana because we're talking about the Hoosier state. And I'm gonna go into Orange County. All right, so you can see for any county you can find materials.
Oh.
And this is amazing. You have the option of going in and looking at these different categories and figuring out which ones are going to be the best for your research. So let's say you're looking for a death event for your ancestor. You can look in cemeteries, you can look in church records, you can look in court records, deeds possibly, maybe land was transferred. So land records, maybe they were part of the military and died. Obituaries, I always look under other records in history just for funsies to see if there's anything. But it also could be under probate. Let's see here, tax records, maybe vital records, wills. There's so many options for one single event, a death event. But I highly recommend playing around with other records and the history section because you never know what's going to pop up. Because look at this, we have business. What does that mean? Is it one business? Is it a collection of businesses? We don't know. We would have to take a look. I will tell you that Percy is restricted by the number of characters that were allowed pre-computers, BC, before computers. So you need to keep that in mind as you're looking at this. This was started in 1984. There's going to be restrictions. It was CD-ROM. It was in book form. It was on different databases. So in order to not have to redo the entirety of the database, we have to maintain this way that we've been doing it. So it works pretty well. And then let's see here, you can see the different things and then you can search inside. So maybe you're looking to see if, I don't know, we're going to do hotel. Okay. That's kind of interesting. There's only one, Arlington Hotel. Now you notice that it fills in as I'm putting that information in. So that makes it a little bit easier to find things. But you can do a lot of different research. I know you don't want to me talking about this all night, so I just wanted to touch on it really quick. You do have the option to search in other countries, research techniques, article keyword. So you can do something and say, I'm just looking for manumissions. I just want to kind of see what's available. And then, okay, I see that there's 110 things that have manumission in the title. Maybe I'm just trying to understand it. Maybe you're just doing historical context. And then you can restrict the search, the filter through search article title and go from there. So hopefully that just gives you an idea of what's available. So we'll put some links in the comments and you can take a look at some of that stuff. So I think Percy is an amazing resource. But yeah, if you haven't made yourself familiar with it, please, please, please contact us at the Genealogy Center. We will be happy to help you.
Thank you so much. That is that's just a huge resource. Hey. Let's see. Does anyone else have anything? Oh, I did want to say, oh, I did add Percy and World Cats, that's slide.
Oh, yes.
And in that early time frame, I don't know, maybe throw that to Ron. Have you used the Draper Papers? I remember that being represented in programs 20 some years ago, for trying to get to the really early families.
What papers?
Draper Papers.
Oh yeah, they're up in what, Minnesota, Michigan?
I think Michigan maybe, but
Maybe. Yeah. They have a website, so just Google Draper Papers and it'll come up. It's part of a state library or something like that. I've used it.
We have one of those too.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I did want to just throw a plug out for public libraries. I remember on research trips going to a specific county over in Ohio, we made the point of going to all the public libraries and looking at their genealogy sections because they don't all have things online. And sometimes the treasure trove sitting back in those little archive shelves, and it's just what you need for some little town that you're going after. I mean, the public libraries, the big libraries, the archives, the state archives, the state libraries, but don't forget those little libraries too, the little branch libraries.
Thank you all very much. We got to move on. We have, I think, 3 more.
Okay.
Let's see. This one is submitted by Ann Wilder. This one is kind of about transportation. And Ron touched on it earlier. You know, when you live on the state border, this is kind of on the Ohio River, how people moved across the Ohio River. And they're looking for the current location of the original Jeffersonville land office. Well, I will tell you, I'm thinking that the land office, gosh, where'd I put it? I think it was there early with the post office. It was one of the first buildings. So I found this book about the history of Clark County, where Jeffersonville is located. That might give you some more information about where that land office was actually located. So I did a little research about crossing the Ohio River in those days, and a lot of people use flatboats. So I found some information here on a Roots website, and it said many times pioneers secured or built their flatboats at Wilderness Road Fort. I did want to bring up that her folks went from LaGrange area to Indiana. Well, we have a LaGrange in Indiana, but this LaGrange is in Kentucky. So I looked that up. Where is LaGrange, Kentucky? Right there. And the Wilderness Road Fort was in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, which is right there, if you can see my cursor, on the Kentucky River, looks like. So I'm thinking they probably hopped on a flatboat and maybe went down to Louisville, or just they went down the river. They didn't go up the river in those days. So that, that's kind of what I took. This is just a larger map to give you context. And it sounds like they use chain migration, where one person or a family migrates and settles, and then a person or persons from that party return back to bring another person or family to the. So there's chain migration and cluster migration. That sounded like chain migration. So historic newspapers for the region, and I'm thinking check Kentucky and Indiana early records, and of course the fan club and land and court records, tax records again, and just it's basically kind of the same. It's kind of the recurring theme of this program.
And for land records, be sure and check the Bureau of Land Management for Indiana.
And the state archives, don't they have some of the land offices?
Yes.
So as far as the Jeffersonville land office, I would go to the origin and dig around, because they are probably the people who know. And regarding like maps, at the Henry County Historical Society, we have a large framed wall map from 1897. It's a plat map of the whole county in our office, and we were donated the very same map recently. Huge map. It wasn't in the best condition, and we already had one, obviously framed. So what I did, this 1897 map is not digitized anywhere. I just took a pair of scissors and I chopped off all the townships and scanned them. And then I stitched them together into another image. And I'm going to put those on our website to make those available, because 1897, there's some folks around today whose grandparents were born around that time. You can find your great grandparents' land. So the only downfall was there was no zoomed in map of the county seat or the little towns in our county. So this is mainly for the folks who just lived outside the towns, and there were a lot of them. And people come in and they look at that map on the wall and find their people. And I just thought it was the coolest thing that we were donated one, and I was able to repurpose it, and it's going to go on. It's actually online right now. I've been working on it today. So that's pretty, that's kind of neat as far as plat maps. Anyone else chime in
Library of Congress doesn't have anything.
for the 1897?
Mhm. Maybe you should send those cut up pieces to them.
Maybe I'll send the scans.
There you go.
The cut-ups are staying with me.
Our earliest is 1866, and it is on the Library of Congress site. Nice way to
Yeah.
zoom in and out.
Yeah, this one isn't our earliest one, but it's one that's people don't see unless they come in.
Yeah.
So we have an 1893 that's actually in a book, but so yeah, I love looking at maps. Here's the let's see here, where is the original question? There it is. And of course, with these surnames, I would just start looking for published family histories. And the Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne just has a huge section of those alphabetized. I mean, they make it so easy.
And Washington County has a great research center too.
Yes.
Salem.
Awesome. I'm going to scoot on ahead because I know we have 2 more questions, and I know one has come in online. So this is from Betsy Leitner, and this was about a man named Dr. George W. Smith, and he died here in Indiana, August of 1871. And for a moment, I thought about the mortality schedule for 1870, but I think it's a little I think his death was past the date. He had lived in Louisville, Kentucky, so he was down there on the other side of the river. We worked. Let me see. Well, we have his wife's name, 8 children and 1 son. His name. Let's see. This is what I found. And I kind of like to do this with larger cemeteries. He's buried at Cave Hill Cemetery in Louisville. You can go to the website and you can search for people who are buried there. And I found he was the 9th burial in Section N, Lot 195. So I looked up who the other burials were. And when I looked up George W. Smith, the folks buried in his same lot came up, as well as the people to either side of him. So, I mean, he's the 9th burial. So who are the other 8 people? There was a Reverend Robert Smith who died in 1851. So my first thought is his father. So, newspapers again. Sabina died in 1865. So look for things about her death. And then I just made some notes. Let's see. Did he serve in the War of 1812? Examined the records of his kids. I looked for him on the 1870 U.S. Census. Didn't see him. And Louisville City Directories. That's another idea I had. These are the censuses. He was in Louisville in 1850 and Lawrence County, Indiana in 1860. So we also had help from Austin Stroud and Ann Hager on this.
Oh, that's good.
Anyone else have anything to add? Let me go back to the question. There we go.
Wills and estates.
I looked, I did look for a probate in Indiana and Louisville. And for 1871, there is one in Louisville, but it's a different George W. Smith, and it's a couple years later.
Mhm.
Pretty sure it's not him.
Mm,
And he was a physician. He was a doctor.
mhm.
But then on the censuses, let's see where. Let me see if I can move my people. On his personal estate and real estate, he only had $400 worth of value.
Mm.
Even then, that's kind of low for a physician, I would think. Since looks like this person's at 500, but he's a, I don't know what he is. I cut him off.
He's got kids that are not of age or, how many? I can't see the census very well. I can't see his age, but,
He's 65,
okay.
and
And
1850 is a little more difficult to read. He's in his 50s.
yeah. Okay. So no guardianship, they'd be grandkids by then.
Oh, I think they were all of age when he died. He may not have left a will, but there may be probate records, and that's a lot of times, especially ancestry, those are not indexed. You have to
Yeah,
dig around through the unindexed records.
or go to someplace that might have indexes.
And they're sometimes at the front or the back of the book.
And
So,
yes.
you know, that helps a little.
Mhm.
Anyone have anything to add? Any ideas? Let me see. There's the question.
Don't know what church you went to?
Let's go back to the 1850 census.
It's right here.
Okay, now look at all those people there and the ages and everything. Uh, could this have been a boarding house or something so that he got a lot of his income from renting out the stuff? Because are all these people related to him? Maybe yes, maybe no. It doesn't say really what the relationship is on that census. So, and they're from different birthplaces around. So, could be that's that's a fan club of some kind that it might be like a boarding house or something like that.
It looks like Johnston. There's
Yeah.
3 children, last name Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a great example of the fan club.
Uh-huh.
Explore these folks. Because in 1860, there are no Johnstons.
Right.
Very interesting. So yeah, there's quite a bit to unpackage there. Okay, let me see. Where are we on? Oh, 7:30. Okay. So quickly submitted by Bruce Harmel. Lived in the rural Couch area. Do any records or pictures exist? No birth certificates. In some areas, midwives filed the certificates recording the birth. Was this done in Indiana and this is about Porter County. So, here is some information from Kaylin Matthews, Porter County genealogist. And it's quite involved. There's a lodge, the Oddfellows books, Woodmen of America, Assessor books. They've done a lot. The newspaper. Anyone have anything to add?
Oh, she done pretty good on that one.
You left a lot of good.
very extensive. And there are some repositories.
And
Oop.
those kind of links are going to be on our new website soon.
Mhm.
So you can, in the future, maybe go to our website and look for the county genealogist and those great
Mhm.
links that
Yep.
Elaine has shared there.
They'll be under Porter County.
Yeah.
Let's see. We do have, let's see, I'm going to ask John Marie if we have, I know we had the one question, if we had any others.
Allison was working on one. Did you get that one answered, Allison?
I put a couple suggestions in the comments. I'm not sure if it's exactly what he was looking for, but I was finding some things, so I was curious if those would help.
Okay. And then we had one, any tips for early Washington County and Harrison County research when Corydon was the capital? Does anyone have any tips for that one?
So that's going to be early. Well,
On the IGS website, there are databases from territorial when it was in the Indiana Territory. I think Ron can
I would
speak
also
on that.
check,
Yeah.
I would also check Family Search, because they might have some of the early court records available there for most of the counties in Indiana, but Harrison as well.
I know there's some records at the Indiana Historical Society as well. There's a collection on the Northwest Territory. So that might prove to be helpful. I'll throw that link in the comments really quick.
Okay, and I think we've kind of answered everything else. We've tried to give tips on some of the ones that people have posted. Donna shared some tips for a couple counties that people were asking about. I'm just scrolling through to make sure. I think we got everything else.
And they might check the Harrison County Public Library. They have a genealogy department there, so they might be able to assist them.
Okay.
Another thing you need to remember is early Indiana, about the whole state was Knox County, and they just, as years went by, they just sliced off different pieces of it, So you need to know when this county was formed and when the records, the records were not transferred from Knox County. They just started new as soon as they were created. So that might affect your research of where records might be.
Yeah, where they were created. Good
Mhm.
point, Ron.
I check boundary changes through
Yeah.
the Newberry Library
Mhm.
interactive Atlas boundary change map. IGS, we have some really helpful databases. They are on the old website, and of course they'll be on the new website too. I usually do Family Search Wiki when I'm looking up a county that's unfamiliar to me. And that's our new website is going to be similar to that, as far as you could put in Porter County and bring up the links and addresses and phone numbers, contact info for what you're looking for.
Planning that search trip you're talking about. Yeah. Getting ready.
Mhm. Exactly. So that was great.
On the live, is there some way to post a form for research?
We've
research
shared
form.
some links.
Okay.
I'm going to try to compile a list of the links, and then I will attach it to the YouTube,
Mhm.
and I'll share that on the Facebook for anybody that's interested. But I tried to post as many links as I could as we were going through.
That might be a good one, planning a research trip or the research checklist or something
Right.
for
Mhm.
people starting out.
Yep. That would be good.
And the whole
Definitely.
PowerPoint is a PDF that we can share somewhere.
Somewhere.
Well, we might be
Um,
able to attach it to the YouTube video.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um,
Good deal tonight.
Yeah.
yeah, those are
A
great
lot of
questions.
information. Yeah. And like I said, we plan on doing this at least 4 more times in 2025. So if you have questions, you can always share them
Mhm.
with us.
Yep. Just keep in mind, it's we can't do the research. We just don't have the time.
We're here to guide you.
Yeah. We want you to find the treasures.
Oh,
That's
it's
the
so worth
fun.
it.
That's the fun part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I want to
they're out
remind
there.
yeah, they are.
Mhm.
And I want to remind everyone, September 9th, we have a great live. It's going to be researching 19th century prisoners from Indiana State Prison System. So if you're just curious, or you may have had ancestors that were imprisoned there, you're going to definitely want to tune in. It's going to be a great presentation.
Yeah, we didn't even mention prison records here.
No.
Or
We're getting to Donna's family now, huh?
That's why I'm so quiet.
Yeah, right.
Everybody might know, but thanks, Ron.
well, thank you everyone, to my colleagues for sitting in and sharing their knowledge, and email us your questions. And if we need to, we may have to schedule an extra live to get to them. It seems like 7 worked well for us, so that is a great first time out.
Yeah. Thank you,
Exactly.
girls, for putting it together.
What's that behind you, Kay?
That is a picture from the Allen County Public Library Genealogy Center right outside. It looks like I'm sitting on the railing.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
I love it.
that would be scary, because if I went like this,
Yeah,
I'm down on the first floor.
yeah.
But I love the quote. So
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and I took that a few years ago.
yeah.
And actually I need to plan a trip up there soon. So
All right.
great. Thank you all for coming.
Okay.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you all next month.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.